What's up guys, CHF here, and I normally don't make videos on the weekend, but yesterday I did pop up live stream and actually encountered something live. You could actually see my reaction during the stream where I actually had a positive stream planned, and then I saw what EA did and it just absolutely triggered me, so much so that I needed to make a video and expose this, guys, because it's no secret. If you played really any EA games, you know that EA does some shady stuff from time to time. However, what I see here, and granted, I am not a lawyer, but it seems pretty clear just through logic and thought that what they did here is not only unethical, but it certainly borders on potentially illegal. So I want to go ahead and jump into it and talk about it. And specifically, we are talking about what they did with Kyler Murray. So guys, if you like this, if you think it is shady, the only way we are ever going to get a big company like EA to stop doing shady stuff is to put the pressure on it. So when this video goes live, I am going to drop it on Twitter. I am going to be tagging the Federal Trade Commission on this because I do think it warrants an investigation. So I'm going to go over everything. What is wrong, what EA's hypothetical defense will be, and I'm going to attempt to debunk that and really go through why I think this is really, bordering on illegal and what I think EA needs to do to rectify this. So anyways, guys, I know this is not my normal type of video, but we're going to go ahead and look over some evidence. So let's first take a look at how Kyler Murray started when the card first came out. So when Kyler Murray first came out, much like all of the draft players, he got a Madden Cash option. So for 7,500 Madden Cash, or roughly $75, you could buy Kyler Murray and get the scheme of your choice. Now, I have nothing wrong with EA charging stupid prices for cards. As long as there's a market for it and people are willing to pay it, they're a for-profit company, no problem. I personally wouldn't pay $75 for a card that's only good for a few months, but hey, there's some people out there that would. But here is the problem. When you sell that card, you are advertising something to people. So here's what we're going to do, guys. What EA ended up doing is after this card was for sale for several hours and people were out there spending real money on this card, they decided to reduce his stats. Now, guys, we're going to go over what EA said about this. I'm going to call it out on why it is BS. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at the stats, where they started, where they moved to, and what it all means. So obviously I needed a new quarterback. When Kyler Murray first came out, I grabbed him and immediately put him on the squad. And let's take a look down the left column of his attributes. As you can see, he has 99 speed, 99 awareness, 99 throw power, and 99 in all of the throw accuracy stats. In addition to that, he has 99 throw on the run, 94 play action. The only thing he was kind of lacking in, guys, was strength. And this is what the card looked like. This is what it was when people were first able to spend $75 on this card if they didn't grind the way I did to get him for free. Now, for free-to-play players who don't pay for the card, as shady as it is to make somebody spend some of their in-game currency that they grinded for on something only to later nerf it, it is completely okay. It's shady, but it's definitely not illegal. We didn't pay real money for it. When we sign up and agree to the terms of service, we know that EA can change those things. So while it sucks, and it's pretty shady, especially with a few months to go in the game. And honestly, the only reason I can think that they could logically do it is to make it so that Kyler Murray is not an end game quarterback, so that later in the season, with maybe a month or two to go, they can drop a better quarterback and some of the whales out there will buy it and replace it. But let's go ahead and take a look at what they did just a few hours later, and then we're going to look at their BS excuse as well. So when I went ahead and signed on to do a live stream yesterday, I was going on to talk about how great the Kyler Murray card, boost aside, the boosts are not good, but hey, they basically gave away some of these players. You can't expect them to have as good a boost as the Masters, but when I logged on to look at this, let's take a look at what changed, guys, starting with what went up. Strength went from 72 to 76, so we had a +4 change to strength. The speed has dropped by 1. Throwack mid has dropped by 1. Throwack deep has dropped by 2, and play action had dropped by 2. Now, a week ago, I did a live stream that proved that EA couldn't fix the Fumblegate problem like a competent developer, so they just removed fumbling from the game altogether. So for a quarterback, specifically a mobile quarterback, what we are looking at is that they gave him an additional 4 strength. However, they dropped really the more important stats on a quarterback, specifically a scrambling quarterback. They dropped his play action, they dropped his speed, and they dropped his throw accuracy stats in order to give him a little bit more strength. This is where I think that it is a problem. When you advertised a card one way and sell it for real money and people buy it for real money, only for you to come around later and change it within hours, that is a problem. It is not only unethical, but honestly, it borders on potentially false advertising or even flat out fraud. So here is what EA actually had to say about it, and we're going to go ahead and look at their response when someone questioned this on the forum, and we're going to go ahead and break it down and see, does their excuse hold water, or is it a bunch of nonsense? So on the forum, EA Hearts came out and said that the reason that his stats were changed is that he wasn't a true 99 overall. Supposedly, I guess he was like a 98.8 or something like that. And apparently what they said was that he was being boosted by things like the spotlight players who are not supposed to boost 99 or overall cards. So they're saying that by having his true overall below 99, it was these pre-draft master overall boosts that were actually boosting the card. However, I have no spotlight players on my squad. None. The only plus overall players I have that would have affected him are my one draft master, which means that it is not the pre-draft master overall boosts that were causing his stats to be good on my team. Now, maybe his stats were even better if people did have spotlight players, and maybe that was potentially an issue. However, when we look at the stats, everything was lowered. So how does lowering everything, specifically the important stats that people would actually desire on the card, make his overall go to a 99 from the 98 that it was? Specifically him being the number 1 overall draft pick, I am just not buying it. They are saying that he has extra stats as a result of this, but it just does not hold water because I do not have any of those plus overall boosts that would be applying to him. Maybe some people did, but I did not, which is why this excuse is nonsense. Now let's go ahead and take a look back into the game, and we'll talk about what I think EA's defense was. And regardless of what their defense was, I am going to talk about why I do not think it is right. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into that. So let's talk about what EA's excuse is going to be, because they're going to lean on 2 things where they say that they didn't do anything wrong. The first of which is going to be referencing back to their terms of service, where basically they can say they can do whatever they want within the game. And I get it, that they can in fact change stats, they can do things like that. We agree to those terms of service. However, terms of service should not be able to protect you if you do something that is potentially illegal. They are there to allow you to have flexibility as a developer to do things like maintain game balance and other things like that. And the other thing that people would come to and say where EA is in the right is they say, look, they didn't sell Kyler Murray for actual money. They sold him for Madden cash. And the Madden cash that you buy is what you spend real money on. So what they're going to say is, look, you buy your Madden cash, the Madden cash is given to you. What you spend that Madden cash on is you are no longer spending money. However, that argument does not make sense because when someone sees something in the store, if it does not give you an option to purchase it directly with dollars and only gives you the option to purchase it with Madden cash, it is basically saying that you have no choice but to buy the Madden cash. Now, to give you an example of this, it would be if I ran my business, okay, and I only accepted payment in Bitcoin, okay? So if I only accept payment in Bitcoin, so someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to buy it in dollars. Now, granted, I know Bitcoin is another currency, but it's a virtual currency. as well. So if I make the case and I say to my clients, look, you can only pay me with Bitcoin, but I'll tell you what, I will sell you some Bitcoin for real dollars. And if they come in, so they accept it, they buy some Bitcoin from me, and then they pay me with Bitcoin. I do not accept Bitcoin. This is just an analogy, guys. Just stick with me for a minute. So then they come in, they pay me with Bitcoin, and I gave them something where I said, hey, for X amount of Bitcoin, this is what I am going to give you. So they pay me for it, and when I go and deliver it, I give them something that is less than what they pay for. This would be me trying to argue that says, look, you didn't pay for it with cash, you paid for it with a virtual digital currency. Because of that, I am not in the wrong because I didn't charge you money for it. I charged you a virtual currency. And honestly, that is not a valid excuse because if you wanted to spend money to get that Kyler Murray, you had no choice but to buy Madden Cash. So here is what I think EA needs to do. If EA is going to make this right, one, we as a community, we as the customers need to hold big business accountable for deceptive and shady sales practices. And the only way we can do that is by rallying as a group, bringing attention to it, bringing shady sales practices to the attention of regulators, people like the Federal Trade Commission or the FTC, which is why I am going to be putting this and tagging them in it. And it would mean the world to me, guys, if you think what EA is doing is wrong. I know they've done something similar to this in the past, but this is just the first time that I had all the evidence I need to really expose it. Please hit me up with a retweet on it. Get as much attention behind this as possible. I don't even care if people watch the video. I just want people to bring awareness to this so that maybe, just maybe, we could get lucky as consumers and the FTC can go to EA and say, look, you cannot do this. You cannot sell somebody something and then after they make a decision to buy it, you reduce what they paid for in a matter of hours. So the way I see it is EA has a couple of options to make this right. One, just reverse the change. Put the card back to where it was, what people paid for. Give them what they paid for. Now, granted, that would also benefit everybody who didn't pay real money for it and grinded for it. So maybe EA doesn't want to do that because they don't like to reward free-to-play players. If you've played this game for any amount of time, that should be really clear to you. However, if they are not willing to simply revert the card back to what it should be, anybody who purchased that card with 7,500 Madden Cash before the stats change, when they look at the stats and say, look, I'm going to spend $75 on it. I want this card on my team. Here's my 7,500 Madden Cash that I'm going to buy this card. Option two that I think EA could do to make this right would be to give every single person who spent 7,500 Madden Cash on this card would be to give them a refund. I'm sure they have the ability to go in there and find out who bought what. So every single person who spent 7,500 Madden Cash on this card should get their money back. Period. Because if you sold them something for a specified price and then you reduced what they got without their consent, that is absolutely an unethical, shady sales practice, and it is wrong morally. I get it. You're a company. I get it. You're a business that's trying to make profit, but this is wrong, and screwing over customers is something that should not be acceptable. And even if you were not impacted by this personally because you didn't spend money on it, you should be appalled the way I was. It is simply wrong to do that. The other option would simply be to never do this again. But I think that's really the way they do it. They need to do something because it is completely unethical. Either refund the money or Madden Cash of the people who spent it on something because it was false advertising for you to say you're going to get something and then for them to go in and reduce what you got after you paid for it. No legitimate business in the United States should be allowed to screw over their customers like that, but EA does it again and again and again in this game. So anyways, guys, I'm going to end the video there. I didn't want to rant. I am going to be streaming again tonight, normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you like the video, drop a like. If you're new to the channel, hit the sub button. And guys, please, please, please share this. Not to get views. I don't even care if people watch this video. Retweet the tweet. Try and get this to the attention of watchdog groups that can go after a company like EA and tell them, you cannot intentionally screw over consumers. There are consumer protection agencies for a reason, and this is absolutely, without question, an unethical sales practice. It is wrong. Again, I am not an attorney. I don't know if it is illegal. I know if I tried to do something similar in my business of what I do for a living, that it would absolutely be illegal. I'd lose my license. I'd probably face very steep fines. I'd probably never be able to practice in my field again. But again, this is a different industry, and I know my industry is very heavily regulated. However, they are still selling something to the public, and doing this is so wrong that it needs to be sent to a regulator who can tell EA, enough of this BS, stop screwing over your players. Anyways, guys, gonna end it right there. I love you guys. You are the best ever. Hope to see you tonight. CHF out.